This is WEJF 90.3 FM, Palm Bay. Good afternoon. It's 12 noon on this Wednesday. Helping Seniors of Brevard with your host, Kerry Fink, gets underway in just a moment. But first, let's check our weather forecast for the remainder of this Wednesday afternoon. We're looking at showers and thunderstorms very likely. We have a 60% chance with a high today of 90 degrees. Tonight, that chance of rain stands at 60% with a low of 79. On Thursday, tomorrow, a 50% chance of rain, mostly sunny with a high of 89. Tomorrow night, a 30% chance of rain with a low right around 80 degrees. Then for Friday, a 50% chance of rain. We'll have partly sunny skies with a high of 88. Friday night, a 30% chance of rain with a low of 79. And for the weekend on Saturday, we'll have showers and thunderstorms, a 60% chance with a high on Saturday right around 89 degrees. Saturday night, a low of 77 with a 60% chance of rain. And for Sunday, we're looking at a 40% chance of rain and a high on Sunday of 88 degrees. Right now, the report time, relative humidity stands at 62%. The wind is calm, and you can mark the mercury right now in our listening area at our forecast high for today of 89. That's 89 degrees. Right here on the Talk to Me network, home of Helping Seniors of Brevard. And things get underway with today's show right now. And it's good to hear that music here on this Wednesday afternoon. That means it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard, the bright spot of our week when we get to introduce the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the host of our show. Here's none other than Kerry Fink.
Hey, thank you, John Harper. It's always good to be here on the radio, lunchtime gathering each Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 p.m., right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And if you're listening to us online at WEJF.net, we appreciate you tuning in from wherever you are around the world. And also, if you're catching this as a podcast, and a lot of listeners do because they'll find us actually on everything from Apple iTunes to Spotify to iHeartRadio, you name it. We have people tuning us in on YouTube podcasts. We have folks who find us on Amazon podcasts. Basically, any place you find a podcast, just type in you want to hear Helping Seniors Radio, and you will find your access there. One of the things that I wanted us to talk about a little bit before we get into the theme of our show is the Helping Seniors car raffle. And but I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest, who is a very, very excellent friend of everything with the Helping Seniors world. Her name is Terri Petzar. And you might know that name because she is becoming rapidly, fastly known and favored as a great podcast host. She has a podcast herself called Time with Terri Podcast, and she is devoted to helping us cover all the things that apply to folks who are 50 plus. Welcome, Terri. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah,
Um,
I am so excited that you're able to join us. I think this could be the first time that we're actually doing a radio show together, although you've been kind enough to have me as a guest on your podcast, and I know we've had you involved. In fact, you're a face a lot of listeners know because when we're out, for example, with the Helping Seniors car raffle events, you're often kind to come out and help us kind of find folks and help them get their tickets to the car raffle. And so they'll see you a lot of times on some of the promotional videos when we're out of these various car shows. But you've been a great friend of Helping Seniors, and thanks for all you do to help us keep all of this going.
well, Carrie, I really appreciate, excuse me, I really appreciate all you have done to support my podcast because, you know, Without you, I'm able to use your studio, which is wonderful. I have an office at, in the and helping seniors of Brevard. So it's kind of a great partnership, I guess you could say, because we both have the same goal because we have a heart for seniors, and we know people in this area. We know that there are such a wonderful group of people that have a heart for seniors, love what they do. That's one of the things that when people watch my podcast or listen to my podcast, they say, it's so nice to have people who have who have such a love. You could tell that they love their jobs, and they want to share their information because they're excited about it, to tell you what they have to offer and how much they love helping our Brevard County.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And Terry, I really am looking forward to us diving in and talking a little bit about the show overall, and the good work and the good information that you're bringing into the county, plus some of the exciting things that are on the road ahead. I wanted to kind of ask both you and John Harper. If you don't know, John Harper, for those of you that may be new to the broadcast, John Harper is the president of Helping Seniors. He has been longtime vice president from the day that Joe Steckler founded the Helping Seniors organization. In fact, going all the way back when Joe was building up, but before he'd retired from the Brevard Alzheimer's, Joe was busy building those. They call them Joe's Clubs to this day, the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation. And then I met Joe in 2010 as he was getting Helping Seniors off the ground. But John Harper, like you, Terry, has been a great friend of seniors for all those years and helping us do what Joe charged us to do, even when he left the earth back in January 2025. And he said, "You guys got to keep this going. It's important. Seniors need you." And I think that's true more than ever. And so, one of the things that Joe established is, as you both know, was getting the Helping Seniors car raffle off the ground. And here we are. This is our 10th annual car raffle, John Harper, and it's amazing to think that it's less than 90 days away now.
It is Kerry Fink, and it's an exciting time for us here at Helping Seniors of Brevard. And we're really thrilled. 10 years 10 years into this, and bigger and better than ever. And it really has become an event, Carrie Fink, that I think people here on the Space Coast and throughout the sound of our voices here on the radio today have looked forward to every year. It's a lot of fun, great entertainment, of course, for a great cause, helping seniors of Brevard. And I think we always say, Carrie, that when somebody comes to the American Muscle Car Museum and they've not been there before, they really don't know what they're in store for, because it probably is, I would say, the most incredible car museum in the United States. And what a collection is housed there at the American Muscle Car Museum. It is exciting, fun. It brings back a lot of memories. If you go there with your friends or family, I'm sure a lot of the conversation centers upon, yeah, I remember when I had that Corvair and what that was like, or my first car was that particular one over there, or what have you. And it's just a lot of fun. The cars, by the way, folks, are in pristine condition. Wouldn't you agree, Carrie?
Oh, 100%. You could like eat off of the hood of any one of those in there, I think.
That is true.
Absolutely. I mean, this is it. It's not a junk pile, that's for sure. They've got unique cars, innovative cars, cars that are one of a kind, and you won't be disappointed. But it all comes back to helping seniors of Brevard, which is what, of course, we're all about. And it goes a long way to helping our organization maintain its strength and value right here on the Space Coast of Florida.
You said that so well, John Harper. Literally Saturday, Terri Petzar was out, Nancy Deerdorf, myself, and we had actually a number of our Helping Seniors friends out there. We had a nice lady named Debbie Vining who came out and helped us a little bit, and even Bree Prentice, who is our senior tech talk instructor, was out there helping us pass out some of the little flyers for the car raffle and getting everybody revved up to make sure that they keep October 25th, Sunday, October 25th, the last Sunday in October on their calendars free because at the very least, that's the day that hopefully they're going to win a new car. But at the most fun of it is they're going to be out at the museum with us and enjoying all the fun there. And Terry, you've been out with us a whole bunch of times. You've been to the museum, you've been part of this. Talk about the fun that happens on that day.
It is, yeah, it is a lot of fun, and like John was saying, when you're looking at the cars, like, I was a teenager in college in the '70s, so it's like, you look at all those cars and you're like, "Yeah, I remember those cars," and it really does bring back memories. So I know it's just fascinating to see the different models and somehow they've changed. Some of them, they've changed over the years, but, and then too, like the old Thunderbird, there was like the convertible. Like I've been watching a lot of Perry Mason lately. And and back in the '60s and the cars, I love seeing the old cars from there. So it is a fun day out. Yeah, because there's a DJ, they're gonna have the trunk or treat for the kids. And since it's so close to Halloween, that'll be fun. And I think is there a 50-50 drawing too? I think they have there.
Yes,
And
yes,
like
there is.
yeah, they do for that. But for us, but it's when I'm at the car shows, I enjoy the cars, but I also enjoy telling people about helping seniors of Brevard because your organization, Kerry, you guys, you and Nancy and everybody else that is involved help so many people in our area. And there's just so many needs, and people don't know that you're out there. So we need to let people know, hey, helping seniors of Brevard is here to help you. You can call, and there's so many resources that we can refer them to. So that's what, with my podcast, which is what I like to do is to, and then with my podcast, though, I kind of extend that a little bit because I individually interview some of the people that are resources so we share our resources, which is great.
Terry, you
Yeah.
mentioned the Thunderbird, and I can remember falling in love with Thunderbirds from a TV show, 77 Sunset Strip. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you and Carrie remember that show or not, but that's when I really fell in love with the T-Birds. And Terry, what was your first car?
My first car was a '64 Dodge Polaro, but we shared it. We shared it with all of us. That thing was a boat. It was my uncle's car, and it was you shifted the gears on the side. It was a push button, and we would carpool to school, and that it was a huge car, so we loved it. That was yeah, it was my uncle's, but that was like kind of my first shared car.
Carrie,
But
how about
actually,
yourself?
Well, I grew up with an inherited Pinto. My grandmother could no longer drive, and
mm,
she had this little 1976 Ford Pinto, and that
oh
was
yeah.
the first car. And to your point, John Harper, I remember the very first time I got to go into the American Muscle Car Museum because the car I wanted as a teenager, of all things, which was somewhat almost in grasp, was a Chevrolet Vega. Do you remember those? I thought that was
Mm.
kind of
I
sporty
I owned
for a
one.
uh,
Yeah, I had one.
yeah, it was kind of sporty looking. And Mark Pylock has a 1973 Chevrolet Vega that literally has 8 miles on it, sitting in the
Whoa.
museum. And
Oh my.
if you remember those cars from the '70s, they didn't necessarily they hadn't figured out all this stuff to make the bodies last as long and things like that. But he's got one that basically never hit the highway. And I remember being fascinated with just seeing that car in basically showroom condition. But here's the point, John. Walking around the museum with Ed Diedick, who is the museum manager, and also Andrew, who is he kind of is in charge of putting together all the events and keeping it all running there for Mark at the museum. And as they take us around to look at these cars, you find out that the cars are not there randomly. There is a story behind each and every car as to why it makes it a particular collectible, because Mark is as smart as they get when it comes to collecting these cars. I remember, John, one of the things talking about the front room of the museum by itself. I would kind of jokingly ask Andrew each time we would go back in, well, what's the room worth now? And at one time, it was like $5 million worth of cars just in the front room. But he said, I think this was last year, maybe this year before. Apparently, Mark has gotten corralled all these Ford GTs, and so there's a lot of them sitting in that front room. And he said, and Andrew told me, he said, I'm not sure what to tell you the front room is worth now, but he said, you see that car sitting on the turntable right there in the center? He said Mark traded 5 cars and $5 million cash for that one car because it was the prototype. And so you get to see that when you go into the American Muscle Car Museum, and you get to see about 500 more cars inside the museum, let alone the fact that they have given us permission to do a car show outside. So our great friend Bill Antonetz, who we work together with, in fact, that's where Terry and I were over on Saturday with Bill Antonetz at the at the Calvary Chapel Praise and Pistons car show, where he gets a couple hundred cars out on a good Saturday morning. And he is inviting all of his drivers, like Terry, you were explaining, to come out. So there's a show inside the museum, there's a show outside the museum. And just as Terry was describing, since it's the last weekend in October, we're calling it a fall festival, and Bill is telling his drivers, load up those trunks with candy. So if kids want to come in costume and they want to come collect some candy by going car to car, it's a safe way to do all of that and have a good time too, let alone the fact that somebody that afternoon is going home with a brand new car. So what a great afternoon that's going to be, John.
That's for sure. It's going to be a great afternoon, a lot of fun for the entire family, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody out there at the American Muscle Car Museum, all to benefit helping seniors of Brevard.
Yeah, no, what a great day it's going to be. And so let me just really recap real quickly so that you can get this jotted down and make sure that you get your tickets. A lot of times people ask us, can I get tickets on site? The answer is yes, you can. But if you get your tickets ahead of time, one of the best things it does is maximizes your time in the museum, because with 500 cars to look through just about inside and a couple hundred cars outside, you're going to need all those hours to make it around just to see everything if you want to see everything. And so we encourage you to get your tickets. That expedites you getting into the museum. You don't have to stand in the longer line to get tickets. And what a great way to do this. So, how do you get a ticket? You donate for a ticket. It's a tax donation to helping seniors of Brevard. One ticket is a $25 donation. You can get 5 tickets for a $100 donation. Uh, you know, John, we've been laughing about the fact that the cost of almost everything has gone up. This is our 10th raffle, and we're still holding the prices for the tickets at the same level they were 10 years ago. One for 25, 5 for 100, and each ticket is an opportunity to be in the drawing. It's a chance in the drawing for the car. At the end of the afternoon, we will reach in that barrel. Somebody's going home with a brand new car from AJ Hires and the Boniface Hires, a family of dealerships. In fact, there's 7 great cars to choose from. Last year, our winner chose the Kia. That's what they wanted to go him. Tom and Patty Cabana, who live right here in Melbourne. The year before, it was Jim Newman from Cocoa. He wanted the Chevrolet truck. We have given away a Mitsubishi Outlander, and there's like at least 4 other great cars, including a Jeep Compass. There are so many, a Dodge Hornet, which is a racy little car. There is the Kia Sportage, as I mentioned, and just great cars for you to select from when we pull your winning ticket. But you have to get a ticket to be in it. Now, something that's happening a lot this year, people are getting what we call a Friend of Joe's package of tickets. You donate $200, we'll give you 10 tickets to the museum. Plus, you get listed on the honor roll, which is the thing that we have on our website and we publish in the December edition of Senior Scene. But you also get a lapel pin indicating you're friends of Joe, helping us keep Joe's vision moving forward. And then that gives you all you need to come into the museum. And by the way, so if you get 5 tickets or 10 tickets, your name can be on all the tickets so that you win. But you can give those tickets out for friends so that they can come with you to the museum. And by the way, because it's a kid friendly Sunday afternoon at the museum, kids under 12 can come in free with a paid adult. So if you have kids under 12, maybe you want to bring some grandkids, some kids of your own or neighbor kids. Let's make it a fun afternoon at the American Muscle Car Museum. So the last thing I need to explain is how do you get your tickets? You can call us right now at 321-473-7770. I'm going to say the phone number again, 321-473-7770. Nancy or one of our great volunteers will be happy to safely, securely take your donation by phone and get your tickets on their way to you. Another way you can do it right now, if you're near a computer, you can go to helpingseniors.carraffle.com, helpingseniors.carraffle.com. You'll be able to get your tickets right there online. They will come to you with a tax receipt and the copies of your tickets will come by email. And then just this week, John and Terry, we have added that you can go by any of the Boniface Hires dealerships and get your tickets on site. That means you could be at the Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram store up in Cocoa, or you could come by the Kia store right there on US 192, or the Mazda store, or the Mitsubishi store, or the Chevrolet store, which are right there downtown Melbourne on US 1, and get your tickets there. The main thing is get your tickets, be in it to win it, because, John, as you were pointing out, this is literally our 2027. When you help us with these tickets, you're ensuring that we're able to keep the work of helping seniors go forward in 2027. And what a great time we're going to have Sunday afternoon on October 25th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the American Muscle Car Museum, 3500 Sarnar Road. It will not be the same if we don't see you there. So we hope we do. So with that, Terri Petzar with Time with Terri podcast, thanks again for all the help that you are. You come out and help whenever we set up our ticket sales tables at these events. You're there, and you are bold about going out and capturing people as they walk by and say, you got to help us in helping seniors. And thank you for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I really enjoy it because, when I tell people, some people, I was like, have you heard of Helping Seniors of Brevard? And they're like, no. And, when I explained that, you're a nonprofit organization that helps seniors, some people are like, oh, well, yeah, I'll buy a ticket. And so, and they're, and some of them, they're like, well, I'm a senior. And I was like, well, good. So if you need help or if you know anybody, there's the number, we can give them a card and to support it. But I also wanted to mention the Mazda Miata too. That convertible Mazda Miata is always every time when we go to a show and the Mazda Miata convertible is there, it's a big hit. So they, they just love that Mazda Miata. So it's beautiful. So
You know,
yeah. But I enjoy it. I like people. I like talking to people and it's always nice to let them know how you're helping the community. So I'm always happy to do that.
Yeah, and it's so important, and it's such a big help to us because Joe always used to say, it's not easy raising money for a nonprofit because I always joke. I say it's a terrible business model, right? Because you still have bills to pay. You have to pay the people that are helping you, and you have some bills, even though you get a lot of things donated and people help with that. So it's important that people help us keep this going because even when Joe started this 15 years ago, we have a lot more seniors now than we did then. So that means we have a lot more seniors to serve and make sure that they're getting the help that they need. And when you do this, you're helping us keep the senior info line going. We took 4,500 plus calls on that last year alone, about everything: housing, legal, medical, financial, transportation. So important that we are able to keep this organization moving forward. And when you do that, you're helping us. And Joe had started these car raffles because he said, Kerry, it's a fun way to get people involved in helping us keep the organization going. And it really is. So thank you again for Terri for helping us. We're going to really spend the bulk of the show now talking about the Time with Terri podcast. And we're going to get just a little bit into it before we get to a mid-show break, but then we're really going to dive into it. But I wanted to start, Terri, by introducing you, because I really wanted to you to kind of explain, as we got to meet you and got to know you and find out that you have really spent your life in helping people anyway, your career as a talk a little bit about your own background and everything that led you to get to this place to start Time with Terri. You've been a caregiver. You've done so much already for so many.
Right. I'm a retired physical therapist assistant, and I've worked with seniors my entire career.
Mhm.
So I've always had a heart for seniors. When I was young, you could say I was an old soul. Now I'm just old. But, but I had family, growing up, family that had, dementia and had some health issues as well. My father had dementia, and my mother just passed away a year ago. So, she lived with me, kind of at the beginning stage and then at the end stage. So I have, a lot of personal experience, and in my professional experience too. I just know that there's just so many people that have so many questions, and they just don't know where to turn, or, and that's why I like the podcast, is to let them know there's help out there. There are so many organizations and resources that can help them, whether it's medical, legal, financial, or whatever it may be. So, I just have a heart so that people can know what's available to them, and that they don't feel alone and lost, and being a caregiver, because it's hard. It's very, it can be a very sad time, and there's just so many decisions that you need to make, that you just don't know what to do sometimes. But it's nice to know that there are good, reliable people that can help. And
Yeah,
that's what's so good about you, helping seniors of Brevard as well.
Yeah, it's so important. And what you do with the Time with Terry podcast, we're going to dive in. It comes from a lot of the personal experience that you yourself have had, both in your in the work that you did and have done, but also in the fact that you have been in that caregiver's position helping your mom. We're going to come back on the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show. We're really going to dive into it. I want to talk about some of the guests and some of the things that you guys have already covered, and make sure that, most importantly, that you know how to access Time with Terri podcast. And that's Terri, Time with Terri podcast. If you'll Google Time with Terri podcast, you'll see right away, first thing that comes up is how to access the podcast on YouTube. Time with Terri, Terri. So we're going to be continuing the Helping Seniors show, radio show here in our lunchtime hour with Terri, just right after we check in with John Harper and get kind of a mid-show break, learn what the weather is, and go from there.
This is WEJF. Let's talk about something that's very special. It's a tradition now. It's the 10th annual Helping Seniors Choose Your Adventure car raffle. This year, one lucky winner will choose from 7 brand new 2026 vehicles. Now, whether you love a sporty convertible, a rugged pickup truck, a family SUV, or a stylish sedan, there's something for everyone. The grand drawing will be held on Sunday, October the 25th, during our special Sunday at the Museum celebration at the American Muscle Car Museum in Melbourne. The best part, you don't have to be present to win, but every raffle ticket also serves as your admission to this fun-filled afternoon at one of the nation's most remarkable private automobile collections, normally not open to the public. Most importantly, every ticket purchased helps Helping Seniors continue to provide free information, education, advocacy, and our senior information helpline for seniors and their families throughout Brevard County. Tickets are just $25 each or 5 for $100, and to purchase your tickets, you can call 321 473 7770. That's 321 473 7770, or visit helpingseniorscarraffle.com. Again, that's helpingseniorscarraffle.com. Thanks for supporting Helping Seniors of Brevard, and as our founder Joe Steckler always said, keep it going. Seniors need us. So good luck, and we hope to see you on Sunday, October the 25th, or better yet, behind the wheel of your brand new car. And you're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard, heard every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock, right here on 90.3 FM. We're delighted to have you with us. I'm John Harper. Let's go back to more of the show in this interesting conversation. Here's the host of the show and our executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Thanks, John Harper. It's always so much fun to be on the radio every Wednesday right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And if you're listening us online or catching this as a podcast, we appreciate you as well. We're having a great conversation with a great friend of helping seniors whose name is Terri Petzar, and people know her as the host of Time with Terri Podcast. It's a group that we have been very, very close to because we so align with the missions. You know, Terri's background we talked about in the first half of the show. She's worked in the physical therapy space for much of her career. She's been a caregiver, but she's somebody who has a lot of passion and care for our seniors. Welcome back, Terri.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to be with you and to talk about our seniors and the resources that we have for them. Because we want to let them know that we support them, and we can comfort them, support them, and let them know what resources are available to them to help them get through this somewhat. It can be quite a difficult time.
Yeah, I was during the mid-show break, we were looking online because I just want to see if you go to Time with Terri, Terri, it's important you spell it Terri, Time with Terri Podcast. Literally the very first entry, if you Google it, shows you exactly how to arrive at Time with Terri Podcast on YouTube. And you can also take a look at Time with Terri and follow on Facebook. And it's funny now. We were laughing at this during the break. At least Google tries to give you an AI overview, and I love how it described the show. It says the Time with Terri podcast is a senior advocacy and resource show focused on senior living options, caregiving guidance, and veteran stories in Brevard County, Florida. Hosted locally, the episodes feature local care expert and transition support for older adults. And I thought that's not an unfair characterization because you have such a wide variety of guests. Can you talk a little bit about some of the folks who have guested with you on the show?
Yes, I'd love to. I've had like Deidre Schubert, who spoke of dementia, which is really interesting because there's a lot to dementia. I mean, people say dementia, but that's kind of an umbrella of a lot of causes of dementia. I've had Angie Dunn for hospice, and I even had a roofer. Believe it or not, I had from Jenny Roofing. I had him on, and when I started the show, I said we're going to talk about roofing today, but don't change that channel because Craig was wonderful to talk about roofs because I've heard him with his when he does his lectures. He's like, okay, how many people have a roof over their head? Of course, everybody raises their hand. So, I mean, that was very, I learned a lot from that. So, there's a lot of different topics, healthcare, decluttering. There's just, so many interesting falls, like how to try to prevent falls, and rock steady boxing, which with Janice Moya, that is such a wonderful place for Parkinson's patients. I've worked with a lot of Parkinson's patients, and Rock City Boxing is wonderful because people, I've gone there a few times, and people have said that when they got the diagnosis of Parkinson's, they felt like it was a death sentence, and it wasn't. And when they started going to doing the boxing, because they do boxing and they do a lot of other things for their balance and coordination, they just get a whole new lease on life, and they have other people too. They have support groups, and they help each other out. So that's just some of the many guests that I have on. So I'm just so proud I'm just so happy to do that because it's like I like for them to get to know the person first. Usually, I'll ask them like, where are you from? What got you interested in the business that you're in? And they're so happy to talk about it. And it's interesting to find out, things about, some of our resource people that we have.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is so important because one of the things that I realize and have really understood, come to understand, maybe come to learn is the right way to think about it in the helping seniors world, is that what we always tell people to do, because we talk a lot about everybody making an aging plan, which is what Joe called it. We live in Florida. We understand a hurricane plan means, you don't want a storm. You just want preparation, so you know what you're going to do if they tell you that a storm is imminent. You want to know what that means. I've already thought I'm going to evacuate. No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stock up on that, and this is how I'm going to prepare for the storm. And that's what Joe's point about making an aging plan was really all about, is he wanted you to give that same kind of thought before you might run into some kind of a challenge as a senior, or if you're caring for a senior for them. But also to make it seem a little less serious, we call it getting your ducks in a row. And I realized that one of the things that we talked about so often is that since this is for many of us our first rodeo, meaning that if we're trying to help a senior, maybe it's a loved one, it's a mom, a dad, an aunt, or an uncle, or somebody in the family, or maybe it's a spouse in some cases, and we're running into some stuff for the very first time. It really makes sense to find people for whom this is not their first rodeo because they really are subject matter experts and can help guide and lead us through those things. And I was smiling, Terry, when you were talking about the interview with our friend Craig Lansing with Janney Roofing. See, because most of us don't think about stuff. In fact, we don't really want to even call a roofer, right? Because they're going to quote sell us on a new roof or tell us we need all these extra repairs and things like that. And yet in the Time with Terry podcast, because I got a chance to listen to that one, you guys were just talking about stuff that every person, like you said, with a roof over their head needs to know. And it was a great bunch of information that you would want to know, but in an environment where somebody's not trying to necessarily quote sell you a new roof.
Right, because I mean, we are in hurricane territory, and when those hurricanes happen, you have all these, scammers, come in and trying to scam you into, a new roof. Oh, you need this or that, and then you might pay them and nothing happens. So, like he was saying, within the first 3 to 5 years, 80 to 90% of them go out of business. So that's why, like, getting your ducks in a row, it's like, and they'll come and do a free estimate, or they'll look at your roof and say, okay, this is what it was like before the hurricane. And then if anything happens after. So anyway, so they're good about that, so that you can say, hey, no, I didn't have those marks or whatever, before the hurricane. But anyway, but it's just that just to prepare and to have somebody that reliable, because that's one thing about us, Kerry, that with helping seniors and with my podcast, we make sure that the people are reliable. They're trustworthy because we know these people, and we know that, that they are not going to be ripping the seniors off. I was talking to a lady the other day, and she was saying that. She said, I know, as seniors, we just don't know who to trust. And so we know these people because if they rip any of our people off, we will not be happy. We'll take them out to the woodshed, you know, so to say. But no, so what I'm saying, we would get rid of those people, but we always make sure that we give our seniors, good, reliable resources.
Yeah, I love how you're saying that because it's so true. And I'm thinking back through the number of guests that you've had on the air with you. You've had, I never even had heard the term before, end of life doula and things like that. You've had a lot of different people that are just, it's interesting how you're exploring every facet of senior life and the things that we can run into. And I thought, one of the favorite lines, and I always give him credit for this, is a gentleman. His name is Troy, and he has a company called Sotir, and what he does is help seniors find, like good living uh situations based on their needs. And he always would say to me, Kerry, he said, nobody wakes up on a random Saturday morning and says, hey, let's go look at assisted living facilities. The only time it hits your
Right.
consciousness is when, there's a real present need, and now you're trying to make decisions under pressure, time constraints, financial constraints. And really, he said, I like it best when people can just sort of explore the edges of some of these topics ahead of time, so that it's not unfamiliar when stuff hits them. And I was thinking about that, particularly with an end of life doula, and talk a little bit about just that show in particular as an example.
Right. Rachel is wonderful with Sacred Time because, too, because I guess that was, it hit close to my heart too, because when I had her on, I had my mother, she was in my living room here, and she was at end of life. And, it's just so important for people that at the end of their life that they just, you know, to respect their wishes, like who, and sometimes too, they have to make amends with family members, which is really can be really important. But to see what do they want? Do they want music? Like, like at the end, do they want music? Do they want candles? Do they want somebody to be with them? Or like sometimes she'll help them write a story, like they like to document how they're feeling, or like kind of, kind of like a little diary of, or actually, of their life, maybe a mini biography of their life so they can share it with their family, or recipes. She's saying like recipes are really important sometimes because I know I think to myself too, gosh, I wish I would have had my mom's, recipe for meatballs or whatever. And so, there's like a lot of little things that like that. But I know recipes are like, I think for a lot of us too, we're like, darn, if only I had that recipe at grandma's. It was so good. So, just to see what they want to do, or, and so it's just, that is such a wonderful service that she provides. And she's a real sweet lady. And she worked with hospice. She had worked with hospice before. I think she's working a little bit with them now. But, I don't know, I guess too, because I am, I worked in the medical profession for 46 years. I kind of have maybe a different, feeling other people that don't want to talk about things. I'm like, no, you need to talk about these things. There's so many things that people need to talk about because you need to sort these things out. And, so that's, yeah, Rachel. Yeah, I love Rachel. She's such a sweet lady. So,
Yeah.
and that's a wonderful, yeah.
And I was thinking as we've been talking through this, you really have done so many good interviews with people, and you're just like getting this whole thing off the ground. I'm looking at some of the titles. I'm logged in right now on your YouTube channel. Again, it's called Time with Terri Podcast, and it's very important you spell it Terri. But if you just Google Time with Terri Podcast, it'll lead you right to it. And you're closing in on 30 episodes there, but I love some of these titles: Caregiver Support Strategies, Hope for the Overwhelmed Caregiver. And that's one that must come out literally out of personal experience, because you're not just talking to experts who can help with that, but you yourself have been on the caregiver side trying to make sure that you were doing everything you could for your mom. And that's not ever an easy place to be.
Right. Right. Yeah, that is yeah, I had Zach on. That's an excellent I mean, they're all good, but as a caregiver, that was a very interesting episode because, he gave a lot of good advice as to how to help, kind of lessen that burden, or also, he stressed and I kind of stressed, help people. Like if people know the thing, I know it's hard when you're going through it, but if people know that you're going through that, you can ask them to help, like if you can think about these people, it can just be like a little, just something little, can I either get groceries for you? Or he was saying like, people were like, I don't want you to get my groceries. I want to go out and grocery shop. I want to get out of the house and get my own groceries. So if they're in that, if they're able that, maybe you can leave the house and have someone just sit with them for a while, that would be, that's good. That's a good thing. Or go take a nap or go take a walk or something like that. But, and if you are a caregiver and people do ask you, maybe have a little list, have a little list of, what can you do? Like, maybe you can't mow the lawn or do the weeding or anything, but maybe, like I said, you could just sit with them for an hour or two while they go do something. So, or actually I was talking to a friend of mine the other day when she was sick. She goes, "But when you're sick," she said, "you don't know what to say." So, that people can say, "Hey, I can do, one of these three things." So it can go either way. Either the caregiver can say, these are some options, or the person that's trying to help can say, hey, I can do one of these, three things. What would work best for you? So, that's just so nice because just, it's just the littlest thing that people don't realize, just the littlest thing that can kind of give you a little break, because you love your loved one and you want to take care of them. But sometimes you just, kind of need a little break. So, yeah, that was a good episode as well.
You
And,
know, and
another,
Hmm?
I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say another good one too is Lois Thomas with Career Resource. Lois is phenomenal. I love her. She is such a dynamic person, but there's so many seniors that that are, well, some of them need it for the money that they're looking for work. And some people, I'm a baby boomer, so I'm like right there with them. They don't know how to negotiate the computer because everything is online now. So with Lois, at the Career Source Center, they help them. Like they'll help them with their they'll help them with their doing the online with the computer work and kind of go through to like interviewing because like after a while some people forget how to interview, and so she'll have the mock interviews with them. And and some people need it for the money, and then some people may have been a big executive and they've retired and they're just like, "Oh, I just want a simple job. I don't want all that responsibility." So Lois is great about that. Her career resource center is wonderful for that as well. So that was a fun, yeah, that was a fun interview.
Yeah, and you've taken the show on the road too, because as I'm looking through some of the episodes, there you were doing a tour and a conversation with Ashley at the Life Memory Care Center. And so
Right.
there are so many uh different episodes, not all of them, some of many of them you're in the studio, but several of them are out in the community as well and giving folks a chance to see what things look like as well. It's pretty neat.
You're right. I know, and that's one thing I would like to do more of is to go out and let people, see what the assisted living facilities and memory care. Yeah, Ashley from your life, because and my mother was there too, so that was special. I wanted that to be my first one because they were so good to my mom, and yeah, I had a nice chat with Ashley, and we toured the facility, so that was fun.
Yeah, and then, you have some of our great favorite people on the universe, kind of things like, you did a show together with Carlos Cuesta with Synergy Home Care.
Mhm.
He's one of those guys that I really love to talk up just because he has the same kind of heart and passion for making sure we are doing the right thing for our seniors and their families. Chef Jillian, as you know, is another one
Oh
of our
yes.
great favorites. And then there are
Mhm.
people that we need. I'm talking about on the helping senior side that we need to get to know better as we go, as we keep moving along. For example, you were talking with Veterans for Veterans. This was an advocate in action for kidney disease, and what a powerful conversation that was together. As you guys were exploring the challenges of living with kidney disease and things like that. I mean, there's so many resources here that you have available.
Right, the veterans, I mean, I was never in the military, but my father and my brother and my stepfather were in the military. So veterans are they just have a special place in my heart because I just really admire and respect those who served our country. But I had one on homeless vets, homeless vets and the suicide. The suicide one was, and it's I know some people kind of don't want to touch that, but I'm like, hey, it's real. It's real out there. And I actually cried a couple times during it just talking about it. So, Henry from First Watch
Yes.
was yeah. So that was a very, very good interview. And we did, yeah, Kidney, this homeless shelter, and then Ryan that I know from the Cocoa Beach Chamber of Commerce, just about, kind of his life, his experience in the military, and he's retired and well, no, he's retired from the military, but he's working for a computer company, and he's very active in the Cocoa Beach Chamber of Commerce with the Military Action Council. So, so that's yeah, I love supporting our veterans.
And I was going to say, just this is the thing I wanted to ask you a little bit about. So there's a great series of resources there. If you just go into the Time with Terri podcast, Terri Petzar is the host of that. Great friend of helping seniors. Talk about where you see the show heading. Who are some of the people that you anticipate uh, bringing to the show? Like maybe not necessarily the individuals, but the kind of things that you see covering maybe over the next year with the show.
Well, I would like to do more on location. Like I would like to go to more of the, assisted living, independent living, memory care units so that people can see, can see these facilities and it's interesting how some of them got their start too. Like at your life, that was started by a man who's I believe somebody in his family had Alzheimer's, so every single brick and everything is dedicated to, advancing or supporting those who have memory deficits. So, I know I would like to get out into more of the activities like, with Jillian, because she has a cooking show so that at Helping Seniors of Brevard. So yeah, and I just would like to get out to some more of the events as well so people know what's out there. And because the health fairs are fun too. I love going to the health fairs are fun because there's so many people. Because if people have questions, they can stop at all these different stands and ask questions, and and then you get some freebies too, which is nice. And so you get pens and chapstick and cups and all kinds of stuff too. But
Yeah. Speaking of that, by the way, you'll be looking for helping seniors. There's one coming up actually next week. It's on the 27th, Thursday morning, 10 to 1. The Aloha Summer Senior Expo is taking place at the Wickham Park Community Center. That's put together by another good friend of helping seniors. Her name is Nina Varuso, and she does some of the leading senior expos. That one happens to be next Thursday, the 27th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Wickham Park Community Center. Those are free. And you said it exactly right, because when you get a chance to go by those things, you're getting some of the same effect that you get from studying the programs like you put together, the Time with Terri, because you know Joe always talked about the fact of getting ahead of kind of the aging curve. You need to be, it's terrible if you're having to react to circumstances. It's so much better if you're able to plan ahead and organize and think like, this is what I might do given this particular situation. And I think that's some of the real value that you create in the Time with Terri podcast, is because you're doing such a potpourri, if you will, of important topics that seniors need to know about. And it's fun because your style is very conversational with these people. You get them to open up and share with you. And then the winner is really the person who's listening or viewing these things, because they're going to walk away with a lot of information. And I remember, you remember being in a classroom, your teacher would say, please ask the question, because you, while you're thinking it, or if you ask that question, you're probably going to answer the question that three other or five other or seven other people in the class are thinking the same thing, but didn't raise their hand to ask. And I feel like that's one of the things that happens with you in these shows. you're asking the questions that we would think to ask, but maybe don't even know to ask, Terry.
Mhm. Well, I try to do my research before. I always do. I call it a pre-interview because I do like to talk to them. Like, where are you from? Da da da. How did you get involved? And and sometimes too, I'll ask them like, what are the most common questions that people ask you, or what do you want them to know about that people don't maybe people don't ask, but that they need to know. So I try to kind of draw that kind of information out of them, and most of them are very happy. I mean, some people will send me like a list of questions, and I'm like, "Hey, good, I'm done." But, as far as the questions go, but no, I mean, I do, but I like to do my research, but that's some of the things that I'd like to ask them or to talk about, and then sometimes some things just kind of pop up. Might think about something and they think about something because I always, ask them at the end, is there something that you want to say that, ask or say that I haven't thought about? Because, and then sometimes they're like, oh yeah, this and that. And I'm like, or sometimes they're like, nope, we covered everything. So, so yeah, it's fun. I really have a good time with it, and I'm really enjoying the interviews. And I know, and then some of them are kind of nervous, and I'm like, don't even look at the cameras. They're not there. It's just you and me. We're like sitting here chit chatting, and like Johnny Carson. I love Johnny Carson. He's my model. I watched a lot of him growing up, and now I'm watching the old shows too.
Yeah, he's a terrific role model for this for sure. Well, thank you, Terri Petzar, Terri Petzar, Time with Terri, Terri podcast. And we so appreciate you sharing. We're excited about where all this is going. That is about the time we have for Helping Seniors Radio this edition. We will look forward to welcoming you back next Wednesday, right here, same channel, same station, 12 noon, WEJF. See you then.
Let's talk about something that's very special. It's a tradition now. It's the 10th annual Helping Seniors Choose Your Adventure car raffle. This year, one lucky winner will choose from 7 brand new 2026 vehicles. Now, whether you love a sporty convertible, a rugged pickup truck, a family SUV, or a stylish sedan, there's something for everyone. The grand drawing will be held on Sunday, October the 25th, during our special Sunday at the Museum celebration at the American Muscle Car Museum in Melbourne. The best part, you don't have to be present to win, but every raffle ticket also serves as your admission to this fun-filled afternoon at one of the nation's most remarkable private automobile collections, normally not open to the public. Most importantly, every ticket purchased helps Helping Seniors continue to provide free information, education, advocacy, and our senior information helpline for seniors and their families throughout Brevard County. Tickets are just $25 each or 5 for $100, and to purchase your tickets, you can call 321 473 7770. That's 321 473 7770, or visit helpingseniorscarraffle.com. Again, that's helpingseniorscarraffle.com. Thanks for supporting Helping Seniors of Brevard, and as our founder Joe Steckler always said, keep it going. Seniors need us. So good luck, and we hope to see you on Sunday, October the 25th, or better yet, behind the wheel of your brand new car. You've been listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard, heard every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock, right here on 90.3 FM. Make it a point to join us again next week with your host, Kerry Fink, for Helping Seniors of Brevard. This is WEJF 90.3 FM Palm Bay, where the time is 1 o'clock.